One of the biggest areas of failure that most of us are going through is the fact that you have it backwards. It's action brings clarity, not the other way around. So most of you are waiting. You're waiting for that perfect plan. You're waiting for the perfect opportunity. You're waiting for the perfect moment to start. And that's why you never move. That's why you never get started. That's why you never put your plans into action. You think that you need clarity before you can act. You think that you need to know exactly where you're headed before you can take the first step. But that is not how the real world works, and you know it. You don't get clarity first. You are rarely going to be confident before you begin. And it is foolish to think that you're going to have a perfect plan before you get started. You get all of those things by moving first. Action creates clarity. Action builds momentum. Action eliminates hesitation. You need to go through the things that you need to go through in order to gain the skills and talents that you need in order to be good at the things that you want to do. And that's all of us. We all have to go through it. And the longer you wait, the more that doubt creeps in. Not only are you wasting more time, but you're going to slowly convince yourself that maybe you were never capable of making it happen in the first place. Does that sound familiar? This episode is all about destroying that mindset forever. The first thing that you got to do, man, it's a mindset shift. It's a paradigm shift. You have to think in terms of inaction is a disease. Get that through your head. Inaction is a disease. Most men will try to convince you and themselves that by waiting, they're being smart. They will say that they're planning. They think that they're being strategic. They think that they're waiting for the right time. But in reality, they're just scared to fail. That's the truth. If they don't start, they don't have to try, and they won't fail. That is the absolute truth, and you know it. You will never have the perfect plan. You will never feel completely ready. You are not gonna just wake up one day and be magically fearless. That is not gonna happen. If you wait until you feel 100% ready, you're gonna be waiting for your entire life. Inaction is a disease. Inaction is a disease. It kills ambition. It destroys confidence. It destroys strong men, turning their good ideas into weak ones. And the only way to escape it is to move now. Put your thoughts and ideas into action. If step one is inaction is a disease, step two would be simple. Action solves everything. Action is the cure to your disease. If you've ever felt lost, uncertain, or confused about what to do next, man, the answer is so simple, it's mind-boggling that we just don't know it off the bat. Just start doing something. You don't need a full plan. You don't need to see the entire path. You just need to take the first step. Why? Because movement itself is what reveals the next step. Even if you're in the dark and you had just a flashlight, you wouldn't be able to see much, but for every step you took forward, you can see a little further in front of you. When you act, you get feedback. When you act, you figure out what works and what doesn't. When you act, you stop feeling stuck because you're actually in movement. You're already in movement. For everybody that's like, oh, I just feel stuck, because you're not moving. Get moving. Most men sit on the sidelines trying to figure out everything before they start. They want to research every detail. They want to be able to predict every problem. You are not going to be able to predict every problem. With everything that you prepare yourself for, you're not going to be prepared for what comes around that corner. Most of you want a guarantee of success before you ever begin, and the world doesn't work that way. Real people that succeed, real winners, they start first and figure it out later. Movement creates momentum. Momentum creates direction. Direction creates success. You don't get success first. You don't get clarity first. You only get those things after you start action, after you start putting things in motion. In the environment that I grew up in, you could not claw your way out of the trenches by being careful or risk averse. You just could not. You're never gonna, I do not know anybody that was successful by doing that. You had to move first and figure it out later. So you had to take risks with limited resources. Most people are not willing to do that. You had to make decisions with little to no data. Somebody said something, you saw something once, a friend of a friend, something like that. And then you had to learn how to pivot quickly, because if you hesitated, you lost. Now, this is gonna sound crazy to you guys. I know you're gonna have arguments about it, but I actually started selling drugs at a very young age. And believe it or not, most people fail at selling drugs. I know. You all think it's so easy to sell drugs, but the truth is, most never make it off the bottom of the food chain. Most never scale. Most get taken out before they ever really get ahead. Whether it's not just failing at it, getting robbed, going to jail, it doesn't matter. There's a lot of ways to get taken out, and most people get taken out before they ever get ahead. Then I moved into throwing raves and running clubs. Did I know how to do it? Sure as fuck did not. Did I wait to figure it out? Sure as fuck did not. I took action. I figured it out on the way down. That same pattern repeated over and over and over again. Every single business I have ever started, all of them, I knew nothing about. Nothing about any of them. I've taken risks when I had no clear path forward. I've walked into situations where failure was almost guaranteed. And every time I moved forward anyway. I like Richard Branson, billionaire, Richard Branson, man, the way he said it. Something to the effect of, when you get an opportunity, say yes, then figure out how to do it later. That mindset has changed my life massively. Most people are scared of failure. I've had to fail more times than most people have even attempted at anything. And that's why I consistently win. Now, I've had lots of losses. Like I said, I failed a lot of times. And I'm not trying to make it sound like I have hundreds of millions of dollars, that I'm not trying to make it seem like any of that. But I am saying that I'm living my life on my terms and I'm moving my goals, my dreams, and my passions forward. Most people don't like the fear of failure, and that's why most people stop there. I've had times where everything went wrong at once. I lost all my money. I lost my freedom. I've had to start over from scratch multiple times. And when that happens, man, I understand the feeling. It's crippling. It can feel crippling. It can be like, it's just so devastating. It feels like the world is moving against you. It feels like every decision you made was a mistake. Like no matter what you do, you're going to lose. And in those moments, I've seen so many other people fold. They hesitate. They get paralyzed with fear. They wait for things to get better instead of making them better. But I've never had that option. I've never been able to just sit back and wait for things to get better. I've never had the ability to just see how things are going to work out. Because when everything unravels, I know I only have one choice. I only have one clear path ahead of me, and that is to take the next step. And it's not that I don't always know the solution. I almost always never know the solution. Almost never do I know the actual solution. I just know that the only way to find it is to keep moving. Now, that's the difference between the people that succeed and the people that fail. Most men wait for the answer before they move. Successful people move first because we know the answer is found in action. Now, don't get me wrong. I've hesitated a couple times in my life too. I'm not trying to make it sound like I haven't. And there was one time, man, for years, for most of my life, I lived in a world that I understood. I knew how to operate in the streets. I knew how to survive in the gray areas. I knew how to make money outside the system. I lived in the shadowy elements of life. That's the easiest way to describe it. And just mostly completely illegal or semi-illegal endeavors in my life. I've had legal ones too, but that was more comfortable for me. Then I had an opportunity to go straight. Man, something came to me and I had that opportunity to leave all of that behind, to step into a completely new world, to still be able to play the game on my terms, but legally. And I hesitated because I didn't know if it would work. I didn't know if I could succeed. I didn't know what that kind of life would even look like. I had no concept for it. So I hesitated to move forward because I couldn't see the whole path. And right after that, my whole life started unraveling. That hesitation almost cost me, man, that hesitation cost me almost pretty much everything. And if I had waited any longer, I would have been stuck in that world forever. If I had doubted myself too much, I would have never broken free. But at some point, even though I'm used to living on this thing of action first, at some point, even in that moment where I was hesitating, I had to recognize no one is going to give me a clear roadmap. Has anyone ever given you a clear roadmap? No one is going to hand me the answers. Has anyone ever handed you the answers? No one is going to guarantee me success because no one can guarantee me or you success. If I wanted to change my life, I had to move, and I had to move now. I had to put the things that I wanted to change into action. The reason why most people stay stuck and the successful don't is because they put things into action. Last year, man, I was around a lot of people who had a lot of big ideas. We were around a bunch of people that were like that. They wanted to start businesses. They wanted to launch projects. They wanted to change their lives. And over a year later, 13, 14 months later, maybe 15 months now, they're all still in the same place. They haven't even gotten into the starting blocks yet. And they have a ton of reasons for why they haven't taken that first step. I just need a little more time. I need a little more information. I just want to make sure I do it right. That is that's the one I hear the most, and that one is probably my favorite. How are you going to make sure you do it right? That's why they're still stuck. That's why they're not even in the starting blocks yet. They're still waiting for the right moment. They're still talking about the same plans that they had 13, 14, 15 months ago. But our team, we're not. We're already several laps around the track. This YouTube channel is a very good example. Now, I didn't actually want to start this YouTube channel, but when I finally agreed, I didn't wait to start the channel. I just put out terrible videos and got better over time. Our initial videos were horrible. Regardless of what you think about what we have now, those were bad. But I didn't wait to make a perfect product. I just launched, adapted, and improved. I didn't wait for permission. I just moved forward and I forced us to get better as we kept moving forward. And because of that, we are going to win. It is obvious if you just look through our channel, man, that we're not gonna quit. We are gonna make it eventually. And this is the type of thing that will give you the elite skills that you need to develop by moving first. Taking action isn't just about getting started. It's about developing elite level decision-making skills and adaptability. Here's what happens when you move first and figure things out later. You're gonna develop the ability for rapid data processing, the blink effect. You stop overanalyzing and start reading situations instinctively. You learn to assess failures, inefficiencies, and successes in real time. You stop hesitating because you learn to trust your gut. Your instincts sharpen. You move fast because you don't need days or weeks to figure something out. You learn to read situations in seconds. You learn to pivot instantly. Instead of being, one of the worst ones is being emotionally attached to a bad plan. You don't have to worry about that. You will cut that bitch off immediately. If something is working, you double down. If it's not, you drop it fast. You stop waiting for perfect and focus only on what is effective. Most men get stuck forcing a failing strategy because they waited too long to start. You don't have that problem because you move fast and adapt even faster. And you stop dwelling on failure because you're too busy taking action. When you're constantly moving, you don't have time to assess over mistakes. You just don't got that ability. Something goes wrong, you're like, oh, I just got to shrug that shit off. You learn to shrug off failure because your focus is already on the next step. You stop fearing setbacks because failure isn't an event. It's just a data point. That didn't work. We need to change this. We can't do that again. We got to go the other direction. It's just a data point. It's not an actual failure anymore. Most men let failure cripple them because they're not doing enough. When you're always taking action, failures don't matter. You're already on to the next thing. That thing went wrong, but we're already moving forward on the next two things. We've already learned what we needed to learn from that. We're already branching and going in the directions that we need to do. You break free from analysis paralysis forever. When you move first, you eliminate hesitation from your brain. When you have momentum, you don't have time to overthink. When you're constantly executing, you don't get stuck debating your next step. You just take it. You don't get paralyzed by indecision because your entire operating system is built around speed, action, and adjustment. Not one successful person on this planet is not going to tell you that is a winning strategy. Speed, action, and adjustment. Every single one of them will tell you that's a winning strategy. You become comfortable with high stakes decisions under pressure. You stop second guessing yourself because you're constantly making real decisions in real time with real consequences. You just learn to make the best move with incomplete information because that's how life actually works. And you stop needing endless certainty before you act. You trust your ability to adapt. Most men only make a few major decisions per year, but you want to be in a position where you have to make a few per day. That's why you will end up being ahead. And because you have to make so many so often, you will develop extreme stress tolerance. Most men crack under pressure. They get overwhelmed by decisions. That is the truth, especially nowadays. I see it even worse nowadays. They panic when things don't go as planned, which things rarely go as planned. And they fold when life gets chaotic. But when you train yourself to act before you're ready, you develop an entirely different response. You become unshakable. You've been in the fire so many times at this point, the stress doesn't rattle you. You learn to operate under extreme pressure. You don't freeze. You adapt. You also are going to become immune to hesitation. When others stop to process, you're already executing because you don't have that time. You don't have that opportunity. You're already used to taking step after step after step after step. When they're processing like, oh man, what do we do now? What are we going to do next? You're already forking 3 steps on. Most men break under stress. You get sharper, stronger, more dangerous because you're used to being in those areas. That's how stress tolerance evolves, and it's through action. The first time you step into uncertainty, it feels overwhelming. The second time, you handle it slightly better. The 10th time, you barely even think about it. The 100th time, you are a machine. You are just running through those problems. Those are not things those are no longer problems or issues for you. Those are things that you've moved past a long time ago, and you are now operating at a higher level with different problems. By constantly taking action, you rewire yourself to thrive under stress, while everyone else crumbles. Most men are weak because they avoid discomfort. Strong men force themselves into situations that require adaptation. Acting before you're ready is the best way to train yourself to handle stress, pressure, and uncertainty without hesitation. This is why you don't need a perfect plan. You need pressure. You need chaos. You need action. I'm not saying that there are not going to be times where you need precision and strategic planning, but it's very rarely going to be in the beginning. Very rarely is it going to be in the beginning. So the final challenge, my challenge to you, man, prove that you can move first. Step 1, identify one thing that you've been hesitating on. Step 2, drop all excuses. Take a step today. Step 3, commit. I will move first. Most men will hear this message and do nothing. Do not be like most men. Act now. Whatever that thought process is, whatever that idea is, just take the initial steps that you know to take to get it moving. Just get it moving. Act now. If you learn to act before you're ready, you will never be unprepared. You will always be ready for war.